Come and dream with me.
Hello and welcome to What Do You Want to Watch, the Explosion Network's premier media podcast. Every fortnight we get together to talk about movies, TV and online content and help you answer the question, should chairs be banned from every film set? I'm your host, Ashley Hobley. Joining me this episode, Dylan Blight.
Yeah, hello.
And back with us for the whole episode, Ciaran Marchant.
Oh, I'm back for the whole episode because I'm no longer emotionally distraught over that horrible, horrible movie.
Yeah, that was bad.
Don't do it, everybody. If that's all you took away from that last episode, then you know what? Job done. Mission accomplished.
Yep, if you didn't watch Artemis Fowl, we did our job.
Exactly, 100%.
On today's episode, we'll be talking about what's in our watch history. We'll be talking about a little bit of news, and we talk about the movie we ended up watching, What We Do in the Shadows. But first, let's talk about something we just watched. At least me and Dylan just did. So I don't know if you remember, a couple of months ago, we talked about this brand new streaming service. It was exclusively for your phone, called Quibi. Well, just in the last couple of days, or last day or two, they released a brand new series called Home Movies, The Princess Bride. No, Home Movie, The Princess Bride, which is almost as the title depicts. It's a fan-made recreation of the 1987 film, directed by Rob Reiner. This is directed by Jason Reitman, who did Juno and Up in the Air, and is known for doing a lot of like table read events where he gets people in to do table reads of different things, and people go pay money and go watch it. But he's teamed up with Quibi to do this series on there with $1 million currently going to a charity called World Central Kitchen. But pretty much it's a fan-made retelling of The Princess Bride, but with celebrity cameos, but everybody's quarantined and is all shooting it from their cell phones vertically. Doing the lines from the film and that kind of thing intercut with each other. So Fred Savage does come back to play the son, but they've got Adam Sandler playing his grandpa for a bit, and as well as Rob Reiner and J.K. Simmons does as well, and Fred Savage gets changed as well. All the different characters get played by different people. This just tickled me. I enjoyed it so much. I'm like, thank God that my subscription is going to end just after all these episodes come out, because I can watch all this and then I can get rid of this Quibi app. It's going to be great. But if you too still have your Quibi subscription, that 3-month subscription still running, I would highly suggest watching this. Because yeah, I don't know.
And then remembering to cancel your subscription after you.
Yeah, once the last one comes out, it's a perfect reminder. Cancel your subscription. Actually, it might be just after because it's 10 days, 10 episodes. So,
no.
might miss the last bit. But yeah, Dylan, what do you think of this latest Quibi project?
Well, it's hard to criticize something that's a celebrities doing it for a charity thing. So, but even if it wasn't that, it's just funny because you're watching it on a streaming service that you pay for. Whereas if this was on YouTube, you'd be like, this is pretty fun. But I mean, all that aside, how it's weirdly on this, no, it's pretty fun. Obviously, it's just celebrities filming shit in their own backyards. And then there's several interesting ways they interact with one another, and the scenes obviously don't line up when they switch the camera angles backwards and forwards between different people playing characters. And in that second episode we just watched that just came out before we started recording, who was it? Jason Segel's play against Rainn Wilson, and then every time he's talking to like Rainn Wilson, he's got like the puppet from Forgetting Sarah Marshall. the count puppet from that, and he's like holding up and talking to it, and that's supposed to represent Rainn Wilson. But it's quite funny. Yeah, I enjoyed both episodes. Pedro Pascal in Hawaiian shorts for some reason. I saw on Twitter Jack Black. Yeah, Jack Black teased that he's in it in one of the upcoming ones, and he posted that on Twitter. So I'm looking forward to seeing that because that was quite funny. But yeah, I don't know. It's just silly. It's fun, but it's just silly.
So silly. Yeah, it's my type of silly. It just tickled me pink. Thoroughly enjoyed it. Definitely worth checking out. It's for charity, so.
Is it one of those things that you think is only able to happen because we are in the situation of the pandemic that we're currently in? Like, if all these like stars and celebrities were able to go outside and were continuing to do their own work on their own movie sets, would they still, do you think, come together?
No, they
to
would do
make
like
this?
I said, Jason Reitman does like those table read things. They would do one of those kind of things.
Yeah.
A bit more professional. This one definitely feels like people letting the creative juices loose, and listen, we've had a bunch of celebrity get together things recently that have not been well received. This is very good, way better than those things. It's just just the tone and I think intent. I feel like it's really good. So yeah, definitely worth checking out. They probably got a trailer somewhere on YouTube for the series if you just want to get a taste. Especially they just had Nick Kroll play all three characters on the boat. It's great. All right, that's kind of everything that's not in the next two segments. So let's get into talking about some anime.
Yeah, anime! The best! This is the part where you don't know that Dylan tunes out and does something else for 20 minutes.
Well, they do know because you mention it every time.
Yep, it's true.
Oh,
Like, you're
damn.
not very good.
Sorry, Dylan.
Not very subtle. So, Ciaran, you watched the new Netflix animated film, A Whisker Away, about cat girls
Correct.
or something.
Yes. No, it's about a girl who is given the ability to turn into a cat. And how she, as a cat,
Pause. Can I just ask the
connects
difference between what Ash said and what you just explained? Because as
I
much
think
as
I just formulated it well.
Dylan zoning out means Dylan not interacting with conversation,
I guess-
but I'm still listening and hello.
I guess cat girl would be a cat, half girl mix.
Technically, it's points in the movie she is classed as a half cat, but
Okay,
that's fine.
continue.
Let's just, that's fine. Let's continue. No, and it's how she, this a girl that is having a hard time in the world, and how being able to turn into a cat gives her an opportunity to connect with a boy that she's been crushing on for a little while. It's kind of weird at points. I think overall it's a pretty solid movie. I don't think it's never going to be up in that kind of same region as Your Name and the movies that came out around that time. I think it's a really solid romance and love story, really, overall. That has, that interesting kind of almost Ghibli-esque element to it, where they go to the island of cats, and the extent of that. It just continues the theme in Japanese or in anime in general, where if somebody offers you some kind of magical power in a mysterious way, they've probably got some terrible ulterior motive, or they're not very great. So just stay away from it if you end up in an anime somehow. But I think overall the movie is beautiful. It's really well animated. The voice acting overall is pretty good, and a lot of the characters are really quite likable. And it's interesting with the story itself and how it deals with the main character Muj, or Mio. How she has kind of been dealing with the world as of late, and how that reflects on how some people deal with the world in real life. And I really do like that the mental health kind of comparisons in this movie compared to what other people might be going through. So I think it's a really solid watch. It's nothing absolutely special. It has some really beautiful moments in it, but it was overall really enjoyable.
Cool. So I watched a couple of films over on Anime Lab. First, I watched Mirai, the most recent film from Mamoru Hosoda from Studio Chizu. He previously did Summer Wars and The Boy and the Beast. So this one follows a young, like a 4-year-old called Kun, whose mother's just come from the hospital with a new baby, who's eventually called Mirai, and it follows him kind of adjusting to this new person in his life. Who's taking up a lot of attention. But then also, there's these fantastical elements when he goes outside his weirdly designed house, where he suddenly is in these like fantasy scenarios. He meets his sister from the future, and he goes into the past of his family history and that kind of thing. So yeah, beautifully animated. I watched the English dub, but it is amazingly voice acted. I think the voice acting of the little little boy is like the kid in is like as close as you'll get to an actual toddler as possible, I think, without like, well, outside of actual reality TV, like an actual performance. This is probably as close as you're going to get to a real one. Just the interactions between him and him dealing with his little sister. At one point, he just sticks a bunch of cookies all over her face while she's sleeping. It's adorable. But yeah, beautifully animated, really touching story. Yeah, really good Anime Lab. And the other one I checked out was I finally got a chance to rewatch A Silent Voice over on Anime Lab, and man, that still hits hard. Seeing that, I remember seeing that film the first time, going in with knowing nothing, obviously going in this time knowing exactly where the plot's going to go. Still an amazing film. Obviously, the story of a boy trying to reconnect with the girl he bullied through in elementary school, who's deaf. And it kind of hits, interestingly, especially at this point in history, where the girl feels guilty over like exposing the bully, and then all the bully's friends like kind of blame her for the bully getting ostracized as well, and all these things. So it's very relevant to the current times as well. But yeah, also a story about forgiveness and forgiving other people, and also forgiving yourself and that kind of stuff, your past deeds and that kind of thing. So really good film.
Have you seen that, Ciaran? I can't remember.
No, I've not. It's definitely something that needs to be added to my list of movies to watch. So I will definitely check that out.
Yes, one of the best films of the last, one of the best anime of the last decade, easily.
Better than Onions.
Yeah, I know.
If you want to cry.
Okay. All right. I will do. Yeah, I know. I think it was mentioned when we discussed Your Name.
Yeah, because I always bring it up because it's better than that movie.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, definitely, it's something I definitely want to have a look at.
Let's move into the mandatory Netflix segment of the show. Dylan, you watched the new upcoming series to Netflix as of time of release, Babysitter's Club. Set to come out today, Friday, 3rd of July, 5 p.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time.
So, I feel like it's impossible to talk about this without pointing out I watched this in like fucking February.
It is an odd scenario.
I don't think I have ever sat on an embargo. No, I definitely have not sat on an embargo for anything game, movie, TV, as long as this. And it was quite funny. So that was an experience. But no, the Babysitter's Club, yeah, obviously my full reviews on explosionnetwork.com. I gave it a 9 out of 10. It's really enjoyable, wholesome entertainment that's obviously aimed at younger audience, not just girls, just younger audience in general, just because it stars a female cast, but can be enjoyed by all ages, myself included. If you've never heard the Babysitter's Club before, do you know what books are? I don't know, like the things existed. It's about a babysitter's group. I mean, are they things that even exist these days, do you reckon? Like in this day and age, like a babysitter?
No, there's an app for it now.
I doubt
there's an app for it.
It's to hire a babysitter,
yeah. But it's about these group of girls who start up this babysitters group to try and make some money. And although that's the main kind of setup, the interesting stuff happens with the storylines between every character. Like the main character, Christy, her mum's played by Alicia Silverstone, and her mum's preparing to marry a new person, and she's struggling with the idea of that and adapting to her family. You got Marianne, she's dealing with her father is like super strict and doesn't like her staying out late, and throughout the series you get to see her grow into her own. Stacey's I don't think it's a super big spoiler to say, but like her nah, fuck it. It's not like a big spoiler, but it's just like her first introduction and big episode that helps build her character is she has, I don't know the actual name of the machine, so I'm sorry, but for diabetes, she has like an insulin pump. That's it. Thank you. She has like an insulin pump, and her like introductory story is about how she's she got bullied at her old school over it, and then she like constantly tries to hide it. And then this new group of friends help her be like, you don't need to hide that. Like, it's part of you and you shouldn't be ashamed of that and all that sort of thing. And then you've got Claudia. She's like super artistic and that's what she wants to do. And then she comes from this rather stereotypical, but I guess it's stereotypical to agree because it's true in certain cases, but like Asian family where the mum and dad like fucking get A+ grades and, you know, study to become a doctor type thing. But she's like, no, I want to be an artist or whatever. And then she's struggling with her family there. And then she has an older sister who's like super successful in school who kind of bullies her a bit. So her story on that side is quite interesting. And there's some other characters introduced later. I don't want to say too much about Dawn because she's the last member that's kind of introduced like 4 or 5 episodes in, but she's also super interesting. But yeah, it's all these elements that make it interesting, and it certainly tackles themes for a family orientated show that I hadn't seen done before, which is good to see. So yeah, I really found it wholesome, enjoyable, fun. I'm looking forward to hopefully there being more of it because it was really quite good.
Cool. I will say, like, on my list for what do we end up watching was the 1995 version of the Baby Skills Blue movie.
Have you seen it before?
No, I've never seen it before, but when I was a kid, nearly every VHS tape, it seemed like, that I would rent would have that trailer at the start of before the the feature. Again, aging myself, but yeah.
That's all right, Ash. I did watch it on VHS when I was a kid. So.
Yeah, so yeah, anytime I hear "Dreams" by the Cranberries, that it reminds me of that trailer, but I never ended up seeing the movie. So
I don't think it holds up. I don't think that movie holds up. I haven't watched it since I was a kid, but I can't imagine it does.
Imagine it does. Yeah. Okay, so I watched the second season of The Politician. I did review the last season late last year. There wasn't too much of a large gap between the 2 seasons, but it pretty much picks up 2 months after the events of the last episode of last season. So I guess I can kind of spoil. At the end of the previous season, they time jump from after his high school to when he's in college. Peyton, played by Ben Platt, that's him.
That's it.
Yeah, he jumps forward and he's going to start running for U.S. Senate. No, New York Senate. Against Judith Light's character, Dee Dee Standish, and who's also got an assistant called Dasa, played by Bette Midler. And pretty much it follows the end of this election campaign that these two leading up to. It pretty much just that's what the thing is. So there's intrigue, there's political games, but it's like very not serious. It definitely feels like this season they leaned in even more to the wackiness of everything. Zoe Deutsch's character comes back as like a super environmentalist person to the point where she makes them as part of an agreement to keep her on their good side. They have to take cold showers and reuse their water for everything. So they use their shower water for for drinking coffee and that kind of stuff. But yeah, the other big thing, obviously, from last season was the big scandal behind Dee Dee Standish was she was part of a throuple. So a 3-way relationship that, you know, so it's like a clean and that it kind of delves into that kind of thing constantly. But yeah, I enjoyed it. It's fun, wacky kind of thing. Gwyneth Paltrow is back. She's even more crazy this season. Where her character goes is bizarre, but also kind of believable. But yeah, Bette Midler is amazing. I enjoyed it this season. I wouldn't be surprised if she picks up like some sort of Emmy nomination in Best Supporting for a comedy series. She's that good. The way she says some stuff. If you watch the trailer, she says spicy lube several times, and it's hilarious every single time she says it. So yeah, check out Politician Season 2. Only disappointment is David Corenswet, who was in the first season, not in this season as much. Even though he dies in the series, he was coming back as like a figment of Peyton's imagination. Not as much this season, which is disappointing.
Okay.
Very disappointing. And then I also watched Eurovision Song Contest: The Story of Fire
Oh, no.
Saga. So this is the new Will Ferrell film, also starring Rachel McAdams as a pair of Icelandic music performers who end up going to Eurovision, the massive song contest in Europe. It very much is a Will Ferrell movie, like his sports films. He pretty much plays a very similar story of him being very, very selfish, and then he realizes the error of his ways very late in the film, and then, things kind of come together.
So it's Blades of Glory, but with no ice skating and singing.
Yeah. It is Talladega Nights without any race car driving, but singing. Actually, there is car driving, but yeah.
Oh,
Yes.
there is. Okay.
It's semi-pro with little bust.
Without basketball and less hair. Yeah.
There's the Icelandic, so they got really long hair. So yeah, it's just not the same type volume.
It's not Afro-y and frizzy.
But yeah, I enjoyed it. It's got just enough charm to make it watchable. Rachel McAdams is also very, very good. Pierce Brosnan's in it as Will Ferrell's father, who just disapproves of him the entire time. There's just some crazy, wacky left field stuff. Dan Stevens from I think he was in Downton Abbey, but also in Beauty and the Beast, and I think he was in Apostle, the horror movie. He's in this as a Russian performer who's like tanned, and like there's hints that maybe he's not meant to. He's got a lifestyle that Russia doesn't approve of, that kind of thing. But he's also a manipulative person as well. He's great. Then they apparently have like a bunch of Eurovision cameos. Like there's this big Pitch Perfect-esque sing along segment where a bunch of Eurovision people come along. But yeah, and it all has a really nice ending because the thing I had to check straight away as soon as I finished the film was, did Rachel McAdams actually sing? And no, she's been someone filled in. But yeah, it sounds great. Music's good. Some of the songs are pretty catchy. But yeah, a perfectly watchable, fine Will Ferrell film. I suspect if Netflix didn't make this, it probably wouldn't have got made. Just because, I mean, it's perfect for Netflix. It's the perfect type of film for Netflix. But yeah, I can't imagine this would have done very well at theaters.
Sounds to be that way.
But yeah, it's kind of good. It's like
kind of good.
The good bad, not the bad bad.
Does it feel like we're on kind of Will Ferrell's go home journey? Like he just seems to be slowly
I wish he'd do more serious stuff, or like produce
instead of these
produce them.
Yeah, fair enough.
I mean, how many sports can he possibly, or contests can he get involved in?
Do you think he just has a list?
I mean, maybe.
I hope he does like the Haikyuu movie by himself. The
Haikyuu adaptation
Volleyball.
is just Will Ferrell as
The adaptation is just Will Ferrell. Will Ferrell is Hinata, and he is the plucky. He has to be made shorter though, or everybody else is just really, really tall.
No, Will Ferrell's pretty tall, so I mean it's pretty different.
Will Ferrell's. Oh, that's what I'm saying. Will Ferrell is already tall, so everybody just has to be taller than Will
maybe.
Ferrell.
So I'm looking through IMDb because I'm like, what was the last Will Ferrell movie I watched that I actually kind of enjoyed?
That you enjoyed? Because he did Daddy's
That's
Home.
it.
2
No,
was
I didn't
bad.
watch 2, but the last one, the first one is the last movie on here that I've watched that I can say I actually enjoyed.
Because he that was the period of time where he just kept doing kind of buddy movies with Marky Mark, like he did Other Guys and he did Daddy's Home, and I think there was another one he did as well. And I feel like since then he's been really steadily declining.
Yeah, so over the last couple of years,
his
if
quality of
anyone
comedy.
playing at home wants a recap, he did Downhill
Wasn't well received.
earlier. Yeah, well received. Between Two Ferns, the movie, he was in that for a bit, if you want to count that. Zeroville, I don't know what that is.
It looks like a cameo as well.
Yeah, Lego Movie 2.
Yeah.
Cool. Holmes and Watson. We all know how I feel about that. Daddy's Home 2. The House. Zoolander 2. Daddy's Home. That's 2015. So out of all that, the first one I hit where I'm like, yeah, I kind of enjoyed that one. First Daddy's Home. Everything after that, though. Zoolanders 2 was shit. The House I haven't seen. Daddy's Home 2 I haven't seen. Holmes and Watson was terrible. Lego Movie 2. I don't even count Lego Movie 2, but
He was barely in it, to be honest,
yeah,
from what I remember.
so.
Yeah. So, Will Ferrell. Pick better roles, I guess. All right, that's everything that we watched. Let's move into some film news. Interesting story circulating around Michael Keaton. So the word is that he is currently in talks to return as Batman for the DC universe, specifically for the movie The Flash.
Damn straight.
Apparently, if the deal makes, Keaton wouldn't just return for The Flash, but possibly for several other DC-oriented projects. Sources tell The Hollywood Reporter the role would be being envisioned for the veteran actor is akin to the role played by Samuel L. Jackson as Nick Fury in this Marvel Cinematic Universe, something of a mentor guide or even string puller. Batgirl is one of the projects in development that fall into that category. Of course, Michael Keaton played Batman in the 1989 version of the film, as well as Batman Returns. And then, of course, he skewered the idea of superhero films in 2014's Birdman, which earned him an Oscar nomination. And then he was Vulture in Spider-Man Homecoming. Yes.
Correct.
I feel like he was in another superhero thing recently as well. But I might be thinking of something. No. He's he shows up in the Morbius? No. One of the Spider-Man.
He showed up in the teaser. Yeah, I think it was the Spider-Man bit. Like maybe it was an Easter egg or something. Was there a thing that showed him in prison? Or was that at the end of that movie? Was there a...
Possibly something connecting to Homecoming?
Wasn't he in the Morbius trailer? Or something? No, yeah, Morbius. He's going to appear in that.
That might be it.
Yeah.
I do know what you're talking about. Yeah.
Which is weird that... Do you think there's a world where he's going to be able to be in DC movies as well as Marvel movies at the same time? Yeah, I see no problem with it. It's just the two, studios.
He's in the Sony universe, so...
That's true. With it, I think, man, do I hear this and do I go, man, Batman Beyond would be really dope right about now. Like with just as him as old man Bruce Wayne, God, that's my dream.
I mean,
pipe dream.
Two things come to mind. One, Batman Beyond. That'd be cool. Two, Kingdom Come. Old man Batman and that as well. That'd be cool. Or even Dark Knight Returns.
I think this gives me. For me, I always thought the shining light for Justice League was the potential of the Flash, just because of the Flashpoint moments that appear in that movie that have some kind of, there's something going to happen past this point. They're already looking ahead to the future, so I'm interested to see how they use it in Flash and how I'd like to see Ezra and Keaton share the screen a little bit. That'd be a really fun dynamic, I think, and it'd be interesting to see exactly what superheroes they gather around him.
Yeah. Dylan, how do you feel about this rumor, speculation?
Did you know that J. Jonah Jameson is in Morbius as well? J.K. Simmons?
No.
Is he?
That's what it says on IMDb. It says he's playing J. Jonah Jameson in the Morbius. So that means he's also
again Sony film. So
yeah, Sony film, and that means that he's literally like just talking about the whole switchy poo thing that's happening. It means Morbius comes out next year, right? He's J. Jonah Jameson. Then Zack Snyder's Justice League cut comes out. He's Commissioner Gordon. Same year.
Crazy.
I'm gonna get whiplash. I can't handle it.
Whiplash.
But it's about drums, what was the question?
How do you?
Dylan just pulled an Ashley where he spent way too long thinking of J.K. Simmons related pun.
No, I feel like this was natural. Michael Keaton, Batman. Possibilities. How do you feel about it?
Yeah, love it. They should cast him. Yeah, no, I'm down for it. Yeah. I don't understand the whole he's going to play basically the Samuel Jackson type role. No, that doesn't feel necessary. Just have him come in, do the Flashpoint storyline. He's Thomas Wayne. There you go, bam.
Ooh, as Thomas Wayne. Okay.
Oh,
Yeah.
That's interesting.
That's all I'd say I'd want. If you're doing the Flash, you do Flashpoint, and then they can help explain why the fuck Batfleck doesn't exist anymore, and get a different Batman in and whatever else. So just do Flashpoint now. Just fuck it. Do Flashpoint.
I mean,
just reset. Hit that big old red button.
Just
that
do
says
Flashpoint now. Reset the universe. All right, go. Done. Fix it for you. DC, you can find my Ko-fi page at kofi.com/explosion. Donate money for that idea to the network. There you go. Thank you.
I mean, maybe it's less exciting.
Or slide into our DMs and give us a decent portion of money.
Yeah, whatever.
Yeah,
Whatever.
Kofi doesn't deserve to get 45% of that idea, or whatever percentage they get.
No,
Kofi doesn't get any cut. So
Don't they?
everyone knows.
Oh,
When you donate to our Kofi does not keep a cent of that.
Kofi doing a good job.
Because-
Donate there.
Dude, great.
Give them the
Because
publicity.
Because I
How
pay
dare
a
you.
yearly fee to them, and then they don't take any money.
Oh.
I think I like the idea of Michael Keaton coming as Batman, like a older Batman, pulling the strings, kind of running everything. I don't think we're going to get like the Justice League again. Obviously, I feel like the DC universe is so scattered at this point that unless I've got a clear roadmap, it's going to be hard to keep track of what goes where and everything at this point. But if they do a hard reset with the Flash and like have a clear message as to what is inside this universe, connected universe, have clear things that distinguish things that are outside of that, like they're currently doing in the DC comics, where they got the Black Label stuff, which is not in canon. If they put like the Black Label signal or symbol in front of like the Batman,
Joker
the Matt Reeves
movie,
Batman,
and whatever
the
else.
Joker, that'd be cool and help the average Joe.
The people that
Or the
care
cinema.
understand. Well,
Yeah.
yes, but
But yeah, I like the idea of Michael Keaton as old Batman. Again, potential story is Batman Beyond. That'd be cool. Kingdom Come, that would be, if they did that storyline, that would be really interesting. Or Batman Returns, like get another old Superman. I don't know who you would get to play old Superman, but I'm sure they can find somebody. John Hamm,
Well,
his looks
that's
old
the
enough.
thing, but John Hamm would be a very good actual choice. That's good job,
Yeah.
Ash.
Because I mean, Superman, he doesn't age quickly, so you can go
He's not-
younger.
You could just go with Cavill forever.
I mean, yeah, you could just put some
Cavill could.
salt and pepper in his hair, and
I mean, he hasn't done that before, right? He's never made his hair look older or white or anything.
Or
No.
whiter.
No, so,
no,
yeah.
no. Wasn't a wig. It was probably real.
So yeah, I mean, it's interesting to also hear that they're still working on a Batgirl movie. Let's see if that ever happens.
Still going. When was the last DC movie? Well, so the next DC movie
Yes.
is Wonder Woman, which got delayed. because of
October
everything.
currently.
Yeah. But
Well,
that was, what was the last one before that? Shazam?
Shazam! No, it was
I
earlier
still
this
haven't
year. It was
Birds of Prey came
Birds
out
of
this year.
Prey. And the Fantabulous
Oh, Birds of
Investigation
Prey,
of Harley Quinn,
totally.
which I've watched
Yes.
twice and it's very good.
Was Birds of Prey this
Yep.
year? My gosh.
Just before the pandemic.
This year is
It's
so
July.
messed up.
Yeah.
Yeah, like this just feels like
it's
that-
only
wow,
July, but
okay.
it's actually July.
It was supposed to be a big
God.
year for DC because Birds of Prey, which was really good, and then presuming that Wonder Woman's the same quality as the first movie, they would have had two quite good
Big hits,
DC
yeah.
movies in the 1 year.
Mm.
Maybe they still do, but I don't know.
Who knows? Yeah.
Who knows?
So kind of jumping on the back of last episode where we talked about a lot of racially insensitive things being pulled down from certain streaming websites. Even going to a further extent this past couple of weeks with an episode of, I think, Golden Girls, where they're wearing face masks. That got pulled. Because it was, and then the episode from Community where Chang is playing a night drow, like as a black elf, that got pulled as well. So it's like they're pulling pretty much anything that's even close at this point, just for safety. But the current move in the last couple of weeks is a lot of voice actors for different cartoons are stepping away from their various roles. Most notably, I guess, Mike Henry, who played the role of Cleveland Brown on Family Guy since 1999, is not going to be voicing that character anymore. I believe Kristen Bell and Jenny Slate, who both play mixed race characters on Central Park and Big Mouth, are not going to be returning in those roles. And then The Simpsons has announced that every single one of their people of color will be voiced by people of color going forward. How do we feel about this? I mean, it feels like a good... obviously, it is a good thing, I guess, giving more opportunities to people of color to do their thing. But animation is this thing where I guess it doesn't really matter the person behind the voice to a certain extent. It's weird.
My thoughts on this are, this is one of the reasons I found it quite weird that Laura Bailey played Nadine in Uncharted Lost Legacy, which is that it doesn't really matter if it's a animated character or not. It's like you're still pretending to be, it's still like, what do they call it? Virtual blackface, or like the equivalent, or whatever you want to call it for different scenarios. And yeah, the key thing in animation is it's like, if it's just more ways in which the entire industry then just gets run by white people if you're not actually giving because they're always like, oh, give more roles, but then if you give the roles that could actually go to people of color to white people, it's like, well, you're just literally just cutting off the very limited number of non-white roles to white people. So as far as I'm concerned, it's a good thing. However, I do agree with what a lot of people on the internet keep tweeting about last week, which is that, like, can we fucking work this shit out after? Because we're still just trying to figure out the cop thing at the moment, you know? Like,
Yeah.
like let's focus on that, and then we could, like, this all is good, but you know, like, let's not lose the focus too much from far. I will say, I think the Golden Girls episode was a stretch. That one, I was like, that was clearly a joke about getting, like, in the episode they have the face masks on, and then people, the joke is that they'll get, like, they answer the door or whatever, and they're like, oh no, this isn't blackface, we have like face masks on, and I'm like, that's not really actually like blackface. That's making a joke about getting recognized for having blackface. So I think that was a stretch from my understanding of that one.
Yeah. Ciaran?
I think it's good. I think it's really sad that it has to have come to a situation like this for these kind of studios to stand up and make this change. Like, saying Family Guy has had the same actor playing Cleveland Brown since 1999 is just kind of weird that, you know, it's now 2020, so over 21 years, and because something's happening now, they're like, okay, we need to change this. It just feels a bit weird overall. As for things getting pulled, I think as long as it's, you know, as long as we don't start just, as with all things with the kind of culture that is right now, where just random stuff is getting pulled for, like, that could be slightly related to it, I just feel like we could end up with other stuff that isn't related at all getting pulled just by kind of mischance and just by it happening. I just think studios just need to be, you know, careful and understanding and be, you know, actually do your research about what you're pulling and make, you know, don't just try and make it seem like you're trying to look like a good force within the Black Lives Matter kind of argument or conversation, because, you know, there's other ways you can put yourselves in there than just, you know, doing the thing of just pulling episodes down for streaming services.
Yeah, I think it's a good move. Obviously, it's a tricky one. But yeah, I think everybody's trying to do the best thing they can. I can understand from studio point they don't want to pull somebody off a project. They're like, hey, Kristen Bell, you're fired. because we cast you wrong. We shouldn't cast you in that role. But yeah, I mean, good.
I think from what I've read especially about the Kristen Bell one and
Jenny Slate,
Jenny Slater from Big Mouth. From that side, it's also the conversations come with the actor as well. It's not just coming from the studios. It's kind of a two-way discussion, and it's led to the same answer. And I don't think, you know what? I don't think there is going to be any actors that are going to be pissed off or angered or speak out or anything for these things happening, because it's the right thing to do. And pardon, you say this now. If somebody does, they're immediately like going on the shit list, and they should be treated like a garbage human being. But it is the right thing to do to kind of make sure that people of color are kind of put in these positions and given their right chance to be able to take part in these.
Yep. So interesting, amusing story in my opinion. Is the Conan Doyle estate is currently suing Netflix over the upcoming Enola Holmes film, starring Millie Bobby Brown. The film follows the younger sister of Sherlock Holmes, played by Millie Bobby Brown, with Henry Cavill as Sherlock, Helena Bonham Carter as a mother. So the Conan Doyle estate has filed a lawsuit claiming that the movie infringes on stories that are currently under their copyright. While the character of Holmes and most of his stories are in public domain, there are still a few years' worth of stories that are protected under copyright. The lawsuit claims that Enola Holmes depicts Sherlock as warm and friendly, aspects of the character they say weren't present until those later era stories, which are still protected. Essentially, they're saying the movie's version of Sherlock should be more of a dick. Is this stretching copyright too far? I feel like I understand he's a public domain character to a certain extent, and I'm sure some aspects of his character are public domain copyrighted. It just seems like a weird blurred area.
My answer to this is look at that shitty Sherlock Holmes movie that we just mentioned by Will Ferrell, and they had fucking no problem with it then. But the second they try and do this, they got a problem. You can't just pick and choose, right? So it's either public domain or it's not public domain. It's public domain. Get over it.
Well, they did actually argue the same thing with the 2015 film Mr. Holmes, which starred Ian McKellen as a much older Sherlock Holmes. But I guess that would have been even more within their copyrighted material of an old Sherlock Holmes. Yeah,
I guess it also comes the face of public domain is like based on a certain period of time that the thing has been kind of out or available. So if there is later works, they kind of, I guess you would have some kind of claim to it, but it's kind of weird.
I think it's weird to say that making a character happy and chipper devoids your copyright.
I think it's the fact that this is more effect of the Conan Doyle estate having a very clear idea of what Sherlock Holmes is to them and what they believe their father, what Arthur Conan Doyle wanted, and then not being okay with other people taking it in a different direction.
Yeah.
Which is, they're right to have their opinion. Like it's their right to dislike it if it's not what they think their Sherlock Holmes is. It's what, we've got people in the gaming industry currently, writing a petition to change the Last of Us because that's not what they wanted. That was not what their opinion is, and it's so crappy. People are to make things that are against your opinion and different from what you believe is the right choice. So to kind of sue them and push that matter that way, that I disagree with that highly.
It's interesting. I know. Yeah. It's interesting because public domain is becoming less of a thing that's ever going to happen ever again. I feel like every film, anything that can keep their copyright going will continue to try and keep their copyright going.
The fact that the quote unquote the jurisdictional war over the song "Happy Birthday" continues is crazy. That 1 minute it can be public domain and then soon after it can get copyrighted again is quite ridiculous. So. I think it's another thing that we as humanity have invented that makes just it's just what it is, and it's just so weird. And you would think if you didn't understand what this was in the first place, you would be so confused about what copyright is and why it was invented.
I think the fact that I think everything should be like it used to be in the old day, and everything should have like that either 50 or 100 year or whatever. I actually think 50
Correct,
years
100%.
is like everything should just go public domain after like 50 years or 100 years. Like maybe if you're like,
I think 100,
50
100 is fair because
50 to 100, depending on, I think it should also be depending on how active that
yeah,
copyright
that's
is. If
yeah,
you
yeah.
have,
like Marvel, maybe 50
Yeah.
years is too short, but then for maybe like a one-off random movie, it's like 50 years is.
if it's a one-off random movie that somebody has never touched ever again,
like,
I think that's
someone wants to
suitable
remake
that you
Gone with the
can-
Wind, except less racist.
Yes.
Well,
Yeah.
it's like
Well, very-
if you
very
look through
much.
history, like so many things like in public domain have helped remakes, inspire, even music artists like being able to just remix or rework songs for free have helped inspire other things that you probably don't even realize, you know? So it's like the idea of just everything being held by copyright forever, I'm not about that. As much as I'm like, yeah, respecting copyright, blah, 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 blah. But I'm like, if we don't put an end date on these sorts of things, it's just, I think it's a little bit ridiculous. I think everything should have an end date.
All right.
We all do, you know, we all die, so.
Yeah, so I think, maybe like
How rude.
50 years after the person who created it, then goes in public domain.
I also think it's very different for. I think I would be more supportive of their case if it was Sir Arthur Conan Doyle himself doing this, not just.
Here. Touch my Sherlock.
I think,
Get.
yeah, like no, I think if it's the person that's directly invented it and they directly have kind of it's that character's very close to them. Like I would find it very weird. I would find it very weird if somebody came and messed with Lord of the Rings. Like if somebody came in and largely changed parts.
Like
of Lord of the
Amazon
Rings
is probably going to
or
do
made-
whenever they start their production.
Well, yeah, and I don't know that for me, but I guess personally, I just have a very kind of almost revered respect for J.R.R. Tolkien. So it's just one of those things. I guess, where-
Definitely not the other JR.
no.
No, that is JR, not GR.
Yeah, okay.
Yep. So, if you didn't know, Scott Pilgrim is turning 10 this year, in August. And so EW did a recent article going over the oral history of the film, and a little bit of interesting news came out of it. Apparently, Edgar Wright has been in talks with comic creator Brian Lee O'Malley about maybe doing the Scott Pilgrim story in animated form. It's quoted, "There's some plans, and there's nothing official yet, but there have been plans to revisit the material in an animation way. We've been talking with Brian and with Jared for a while about it. What if we did something with the ad book in anime form is being discussed as we speak." Of course, I think not long after the film came out, there was a animated short depicting one of, I think, how Scott Pilgrim meets Alison Pill's character, the drummer. I can't remember her name off the top of my head. Very much in the style of comic books. So, in my opinion, if they did a retelling of the books, the comic 6 books, animated, that'd be dope.
Man, I would love if they actually did the story from the comic books. Because it is so different from everything in that movie. Even though I love that movie, the comic books, reading through them, has such a different story overall. I think it'd be really cool to go back and actually watch that animated.
Yeah. I really love that idea of redoing, especially in that comic book style, animated. You can do even crazier stuff than they probably could have done in live action. Of course, the movie added a bunch of different elements to the storytelling, that kind of thing. But I think animated form would be really cool to see. Dylan, what do you think? There's something.
Nah.
No. Whoa! Didn't see that coming.
They've done it. Like the live action one's basically a fucking cartoon. I think it's done. I think this is unnecessary. And I've watched.
What if they do?
I've read all the
original
comics.
storyline.
I like this. I don't care. It's done. I'll read the. I'd rather just reread the things. It just seems unnecessary for like the bunch of money that could be spent on this. I'd rather just be spent on some other original thing by Edgar, or maybe turn fucking Snot Girl into an animated movie. You know, like that with Brian Lee O'Malley kind of thing. So no, I vote against this.
Wow, raining on our parade.
Mm-hmm. Now you know how I feel most of the day when I'm fucking talking to you.
Oh god. So another interesting thing that is actually coming back. So in the last week, it was the 20th anniversary of Aardman's animation stop motion animated film Chicken Run. And they announced that a Chicken Run 2 is coming to Netflix in the next couple of years. Apparently, it will follow the Rocky and Ginger. They had a daughter. Hatchinette gave them a daughter. Grows up quickly, yearning to leave the island they've been living on. There's been rumors of a deadly threat on the mainland that have reached the island, and it's up to Ginger to rally the troops
Coronavirus.
and risk their feathers for the good of all chicken kind. Apparently, it's been called a homage to Mission Impossible.
Sure.
And they've also been reported that Mel Gibson will not be reprising his role as the Chicken Rocky.
Makes sense.
Do you guys have fond memories of Chicken Run, and are you excited for Chicken Run 2?
Yes, I like. I think it's. I don't know if it's just an English thing, just because, like I have a very kind of soft spot in my heart for both Chicken Run and Wallace and Gromit. That's done by the same studios. It's Chicken Run's something that's often randomly quoted in like with my family, because we always I don't like gravy, don't like pies. Just those like little sections that we just laugh at from that movie. That is just really it just stuck with us. So I'm interested. I part of me worries, because you're like, man, are you guys gonna ruin this again? You're gonna ruin something else that I really enjoy. But yeah, it'll be fun to watch and check out.
Are you talking about Disney Plus? What Netflix ruin?
I'm
just talking in general.
Okay.
Things that I love being ruined. I can give you a list. Percy Jackson, Eragon, Artemis Fowl.
Well, no, those are adaptations. Name a sequel that disappointed you.
Name a sequel that disappointed me. Percy Jackson and the Sea of Monsters.
That disappointed you more than the first one?
It did as well. It was really bad. It continued to be really bad.
Dylan?
I forgot the question.
Chicken Run.
Oh yeah, right. Yeah. No, I love Chicken Run. I watched it many times as a kid. It was one of the most played alongside Spirited Away. I think it was also played quite a bit during my daycare years. And if you want to hear me talk about how much Spirited Away was played, go listen to the Spirited Away episode of Studio Ghibli's Animated Wonders. But no, Chicken Run's great. I haven't watched it for probably since I was like around 15, 16. I don't think I've watched it since I was like a teenager. So it's been well over 10 years. And seeing this news, I was like, wow, that is a fucking random pull. Hey, Netflix. But everyone talking about it, they made me want to rewatch it to see if it actually still holds up. But I think Ciaran sold me by saying those lines, and I was like, yeah, they are funny lines, hey?
Yeah, they're funny lines, exactly.
As soon as you said them, I could see that character saying it. I'm like, yeah, that's funny. It's good shit. So yeah, I'm about this. And also, it's good that Mel Gibson isn't playing it, because basically the film is like sort of an analogy for either...
Listen, that's why I never watched The Great Escape.
Yeah.
I didn't need to.
Yeah.
Hey, The Great Escape is a fantastic movie.
Yeah, but how's it compared to a chicken on a bicycle?
Well, you can say nobody got fired out of a cannon in The Great Escape. I'll be honest.
So worse. Yeah, I'm keen for this. This seems like it is again a weird property for them to bring back, But I don't think Aardman's been having much success recently. What was it? They just did this Shaun the Sheep film that's going to be on Netflix because of coronavirus. And then I think before that they did Early Man, which I don't think anybody mentioned anything about.
No.
Prior to that, I think
I've watched Early Man, and that was fairly good actually, but it wasn't well received. I really enjoyed. They did Flushed Away in like the mid 2000s, late 2000s, with Hugh Jackman was the lead.
Yes, I believe so.
Say.
But that didn't do very well financially from memory.
No, it didn't.
How about the Wallace and Gromit movies?
The originals are good. Curse of the Were-Rabbit, questionable.
No, I like that one.
It's good. It wasn't as good as the first.
No, but I still think it was pretty good.
So they did Chicken
But
Run
also-
in 2000, Wallace and Gromit, The Curse of the Were-Rabbit in 2005, Flushed Away in 2006, Arthur Christmas 2011, underrated.
Oh, I forgot about that.
That
Also true, very underrated.
I don't like it, but it's fine.
Then they did The Pirates, An Adventure with Scientists.
No, I know. I remember seeing the trailer, but I haven't watched it yet.
Yep. Shaun the Sheep movie in 2015. Early Man in 2018. Shaun the Sheep movie Farmageddon 2019.
Is Early Man the one about football/soccer?
No. It's a,
There's one
Maybe?
where like they're like cave people,
Yes.
but they play soccer.
oh,
yes.
then yeah. I was about to say
And it's like the first people that
Yeah,
invented
yeah,
soccer
yeah,
and
yeah,
stuff,
yeah.
and them learning
That's
it
that
and
one.
stuff. It's actually not. I can't remember. Somebody really kind of big kind of did the lead actor for that. And I can't remember who now, but
Eddie Redmayne.
but yes, that was it. It was Eddie Redmayne. That's why, because I was really in love with Eddie Redmayne at the time, and I still am.
Big fan of... what was the Wachowskis film? That was Jupiter Ascending.
yeah, where he just
Oh.
yells all the time.
Isn't that on like the list of like the worst grossing movies ever? Is Jupiter Ascending because it was so bad.
Yeah.
And
Not that
nobody
bad,
wanted to
though.
watch it.
I saw it in cinemas. Anyway. Yeah, Chicken Run. We're all looking forward to that. And then a couple of interesting Scholastic books related projects. Elizabeth Banks has been cast as Miss Frizzle, the live action Magic the School Bus movie. Of course, the original series ran 1994 to 1997. Followed Miss Frizzle as she takes on her students on magical trips that are educational value as they travel through times or to certain locations. They recently did like a small reboot in 2017 on Netflix with Kate McKinnon playing Miss Frizzle, who I thought would have been the perfect pick for like a live action version. But I mean, Elizabeth Banks is pretty good as well. Do you guys have any feelings about Magic School Bus?
Love it. Big fan. Used to love that shit. That was like my favorite thing when I was in primary school. Magic School Bus. Absolutely loved it. So I'm very keen. I mean, it's never going to live up to being kid and watching that show and be like, this is the shit. I wish this was actually what happened when I went to school because like I'm in primary school at the time
boring.
watching this being like, this is so much better than what I'm doing on my day to day. But, you know, I'm all about it. And I enjoy Elizabeth Banks. I think she's a good actress. I think she's a good person, you know? So I think if you're like, oh, she can't do this role, I think people forget how kind of out there she is in fucking Hunger Games. So like she can push
You know what?
push the boundaries.
I loved her in Power Rangers.
Even that, is like
Yeah.
I
out
loved
there,
her
so.
in Power Rangers. I
Yeah.
thought she was really good as Rita Repulsa.
Yeah. Sad that's not coming back. I don't... No, I'm generally upset.
It was.
You
an
look at that
interesting
cast
adaptation.
since, like Naomi Scott's
very
like
much so.
blown up, and Darcy Montgomery went on to
Died in Stranger Things. That's fine.
Yeah. So yeah, there's a good opportunity there, but looks like they squander it. I don't feel like the Magic School Bus idea translate to a film,
Why?
I think it could. Why not?
just because obviously each episode is a separate adventure. Now it's just going to be
But they
one
just
big
go in on-
adventure.
What's wrong with?
I don't know.
you
I just feel like
one
it-
big adventure.
I don't know. I just a gut feeling that it's not good. I'd prefer them to do a TV series or like a
How
mini
about
series.
actually, they do. You watch like the first like half of the movie. You then pause it, walk out of the cinema, like not pause it, but walk out of the cinema, quickly come back. It's the second episode. That's
Maybe
like a
that's the
two-parter. They're
solution.
continuing on the.
It's crazy. But yeah, we're all going to look forward to that CG fest sometime in whenever coronavirus is fixed.
Never.
And then the other thing is the children's book series Animorphs is currently being developed for film.
Fuck yes.
No way.
The book series written by K. Applegate that follows 5 humans and an alien who are able to transform into animals that they come into physical contact with is being developed as a movie series, a movie adaptation. I read and collected these books religiously as a child. I think I stopped like right towards the end, so I never finished it, but good memories. The TV show, not that great.
Mind your whole language.
What?
TV show's great. What's wrong with you?
Yeah, I mean it's fine.
Man, I used to love going to bookstores and seeing those weird covers and the
You can
bookshelves.
still-
It's like,
They've reprinted them. It's crazy.
oh goodness, man.
Yeah, I don't know. Again, I don't feel like live action is the format for Animorphs. In my mind, it would make an excellent animated series. One, you don't have to spend so much on CGI turning them into animals and getting the animals to walk around weird. You could just make them animate them animals. Ciaran, what do you think? How do you feel about Animorphs?
You know what? I'm glad you said I don't know how I'd feel about this as a movie, because I was gonna like pick you up on it if you went, don't know how I feel about Magic School Bus, but Animorphs, totally fine. Sure. I think it would be actually interesting in being live action, because I'd like to see what they do with CG or how they implement the animorphing. I think it could be really cool and be really interesting for special effects. But on the other hand, I'm not. It's Animorphs. Sure, I guess they can turn into animals, and then he turned into a dog, and then oh no, he's being taken off to the pound. He got caught by.
Well, yeah, yeah, yeah. It's an odd one to adapt, seeing as it's like 50-something books. What? You're just going to streamline a bunch of those stories into a tiny bit. I feel like you're just not going to do it justice.
You say that as if they're like. Those books were like full of content.
No, they weren't.
And, like,
No,
they were. You could probably put like 10 books in one movie. Let's be
probably.
honest.
Dylan, did you have a history with Animorphs?
Yeah. Watched the TV show, liked it. Then I went and got the books. And then I read the books. I'm sure I didn't read them all, but I read whatever ones my school library had. I really like both. I think the reason I probably like the TV show more than you, I guess, is if you're saying that you had the books before the TV show, but I saw the TV show first.
You got to remember, when the TV show was coming out, Ash was like in his mid-20s.
That is true.
Like he was well beyond that kind of child TV show by then.
I was a young child though, and I remember the show used to scare the shit out of me. So I legit found it very scary. If I think back in my childhood, I think it was probably the scariest thing I was watching at the age I was at the time. I used to find it quite freaky.
There was a couple TV shows like that I found incredibly scary, or just kind of tense. And just
Doctor Who used to scare the fuck out of me when I watched it. The old episodes.
Doctor Who was dope. Was very scary. There was, what is it? Not.
Do you ever say that one?
Goosebumps.
Yeah, Goosebumps.
It was in like the same level as Goosebumps for me. It was almost like it was created by the same kind of studio in the same.
Did you ever
way.
see that TV show? And I can never think of the name of what it is or remember what it was called. But there was this TV show that used to be on TV when I was a kid. And it was like basically Blair Witch, but for kids, is the way I would describe it. But I can never think of what the fuck it's called.
I know. There was a couple like that. There was one where we're like trapped on an island, and
they were like in a bush, and they kept trying to escape, and they would go to this town, and no one would know them, and then like some of the characters would just randomly disappear and reappear in different places, and all sorts of weird shit like this. And that used to scare the shit out of me as a kid as well. But I have no idea what it's called. I have lots of memories of it.
There was another one that was like the equivalent of Lost, but for kids. That was like, they had like a weird kind of like they got washed up on a beach.
Yeah, I remember this.
Different people like getting annoyed with how the camp's being run, and then there's like a wild tribe in there. And
man, TV used to be scary.
Damn straight.
Yeah, none of this soft stuff.
Yeah, fucking kids have it easy these days.
None of this bluey. Jeez,
yeah,
guys.
get the hell out of here.
Whoa! You leave Blue alone. That's some good stuff. Like,
It's true. Blue is good, but it's not scary. So,
it's not
but
scary.
yeah, Animals, good shit. Sean
That's a good
Ashmore,
thing.
get him back.
Sean Ashmore,
He was in Animals.
the big person to come out of that series.
No, old mate. Fuck that man. The alien, whatever. What's his name? He was
Paul
a huge star.
Costanzo.
He was a huge
Is he on
star. Polo
Costanzo.
Costanzo. Yeah, fucking huge.
That's
Road trip.
2. All right.
Come on,
2 people out of that series.
made it big.
Okay. All right, that's all the news I got for this episode. Let's move into what are we end up watching. Ciaran, what are we end up watching?
We ended up watching the somewhat cult classic of What We Do in the Shadows.
It's been like this the whole time, Deacon, on dishes, and it still hasn't moved in 5 years. You're a cool guy, but you're not pulling your weight in the flat.
Oh, I'm glad to hear that I'm cool.
No, that's not the point, though.
Yeah,
You're missing
no, I
the
know.
point.
Not a
I know.
flat meeting about how cool you are.
When you get 3 vampires in a flat, obviously there's going to be a lot of tension.
Viago was an 18th century dandy.
A ghost cop. Vladislav is a bit of a pervert.
This is my torture chamber.
Deacon's like the young bad boy of the group.
I'm supposed to pay rent, but I don't.
The trouble with being a vampire is you have to be invited in.
Come into the bar, please.
We need some fresh blood.
Yes, the 2014 film directed by Jermaine Clement and Taika Waititi, starring Jermaine Clement, Taika Waititi, Jonathan Brew, Corey Gonzalez Mouser, and Stu Rutherford, in which Viago, Deacon, and Vladislav are vampires who are finding that modern life has them struggling with the mundane, like paying rent, keeping up with the chore wheel, trying to get into nightclubs, and overcoming flatmate conflicts. Ciaran, you had to pick this episode. Why'd you pick this one? Have you watched it before? I guess the other question.
I've never seen it before.
What?
The recent thing is I try and pick stuff I've just never watched before, and I've always wanted to watch this movie. I really like Taika Waititi, and I really appreciate Jermaine Clement as well. And I've loved them since Jermaine since like Flight of the Conchords, and I've always known of this vampire movie that they did together that was shot in this documentary style in New Zealand that was very almost like homegrown local New Zealand movie, and I just had no idea what actually happened in it or anything. And I'm guessing both of you from your reactions have already seen it.
I've seen it like
Yes.
4 or 5 times. This is my 4th or 5th time, yeah.
Yeah, that's fine.
I've only seen it once before.
But I've really enjoyed it. It was really fun, and I laughed quite a bit throughout the whole thing.
It's a great movie. I mean, it's got Taika and Jermaine's fingerprints all over it. If you've watched Fire the Conchords, if you've Taika Waititi's films prior to this one, it's got their humor all over it. They work in the vampire lore so beautifully in this, from all over the place, like all the different, except Twilight. That's not counted in this series.
Yeah, but Twilight's mentioned heaps. In this.
It's joked about, but the lore from that film.
Steve's from Twilight. Okay, he was from Twilight. That was him.
But yeah, I love this film. It's so funny and ridiculous. And yeah, it's just great all around. And good on Stu. Good Stu.
We're
Dylan, why is this such a
werewolves,
great
not
film?
swearwolves. All right, enough swearing. All right, no more
You're not
swearing.
swearwolves.
Werewolves, not swearwolves. That's my favorite line, I think. So I still want them to make that spin-off movie. They've been talking about it for years. Just make it already. Do it.
The werewolves?
Yeah,
Or
it's called
werewolves?
Werewolves. Like we are werewolves.
No,
That's how the movie
werewolves.
title's supposed to be so. No, this is great. This is funny every time. I know it's just kind of a classic. Just everything about it. It's still funny every time. I feel like I could not watch it for 6 months. And I feel like I could watch it again. And I'm sitting there and I'm watching it, and they're like, they're doing the whole scene early in the movie where they're all trying to get into clubs and they're getting turned away because they can't get in because they have to be invited in.
Just invite me.
Yeah, just invite us in. And the fact that they're all wearing like still like fucking 1800s clothing consistently. There's just so many funny bits. My only criticism for this movie is I think it kind of falls off at the end. The whole I've always had the same problem. Not that it ever ruins it for me. I've just always thought that the movie, the thing where they all go meet up at the thing, and it has like the Beast, his ex girlfriend or whatever else. I feel like that's just the weakest segment of the movie. Obviously, it leads to them having to leave that place, and then Stu gets eaten and all that sort of stuff. And then we kind of wrap up the movie from that point. But I've always felt like once you hit that point where they're like, I just feel like the end's the weakest part of the movie. Yeah, and it's fine. Like it still ends on sort of a high note where they have a good joke at the end where they all get together and they're having the werewolves over and whatever else, and that's quite funny. But that's my only criticism for the movie is I just feel like that like 10-15 minute period, like towards the end, is just the weakest part of the movie. Other than that, fantastic movie.
I love
instantly rewatchable.
I love that they brought back for the latest the police. Like the policewoman and her partner.
What, the TV show they do?
Like just how like they're just so, I don't know. There's just something about that style of comedy that I just love. The fact that like he brings over the German Shepherd and he's like, I got the culprit. Like it's like, how does something so cute?
Oh, you mean
do
okay?
that?
I thought you seen it. In case you don't know, they do those two cops have a spin-off TV show.
Do they?
Yeah, it's called
Wellington Paranormal.
Paranormal. Yeah, it's got 2 seasons so far. The third one's supposed to come out like this year or next year or something like that. So there's a spin-off of that. And then also, I haven't watched it yet, but I should probably, this has inspired me to actually put in effort to watch it, because they did an American What We Do in the Shadows TV series. And at first I was really turned off because I thought it was just going to be a remake of this. And I was so against it for so long. And then when it came out and it kept getting good reviews, I was like, yeah, whatever. And I never bothered to look into it, but then I found out it's not actually a remake. It's like a same universe, just different vampires with the same sort of concept. And Nick's watched it and he says it's quite good. So might actually want to watch that now. So it's basically, you've got the TV series, which Jermaine, I know, cameos in one episode, and maybe some other people I don't know, but that's a connection. And then you've got Wellington Paranormal is also part of this universe. So you have this weird What We Do in the Shadows, like cinematic universe across all these TV shows and stuff. It's quite funny.
And can I say, for people who don't know, like before watching this, I wish I'd watched this prior to knowing more about Taika, as his direction, his humor, because I think he's fantastic in this movie. Like I really enjoy his characterization and just his just overall humor in this movie. I think is just blows me away, and it's really fun to watch. And it's been really interesting to kind of watch this and then look at what he goes on to when in his career after this.
I think one of the reasons I've always been more critical of like Thor and some of his other things is because I've literally watched Taika's first movie when it came out, and I've watched every movie he's done ever since then. So I've always kind of been a bit more like, I guess hipsterish, where I'm like, nah, go back to doing like you used to do, because I've been around for the long haul, I guess, sort of thing. It's the same feeling I have whenever I've watched Jermaine do stuff like your typical American comedy stuff, and I'm like, get out of this, go back to doing Flight of Conchords type shit, that sort of feeling I've had about both of them. But yeah, all of Taika's early movies, I would love if we eventually can just talk about all of them, because I think they're all fucking fantastic.
Maybe we do some sort of podcast series. We go through people's filmographies or something.
Yeah, that sounds like a good idea. Let's copyright that shit. Because I can throw it out now, even though I haven't rewatched it for many years. I've always said for the long haul that my favorite Taika movie is actually his second movie, which was called Boy. I don't know if I'd change my mind if I did a rewatch, but that's currently my favorite. And that because it has a lot of heart to it, and he plays this kid's father in it. It's kind of a dropkick dad. But yeah, I think that movie is his best, but we'll see.
Yeah. But yeah, he's great in this. Jermaine's great in this. I really like the guy who plays Nick. He's really funny and completely off the wall. Of course, they had to work the word chip in there for everybody who likes to make fun of a New Zealand accent.
Or kind of chips. Yeah. Can't have chips, bro.
Can't have chips, my favourite food.
Oh, no, he had a chip.
I wouldn't have done that.
Yeah, I wouldn't have done that. Just cuts to throwing up outside like fucking everywhere. So good.
There's so many funny bits. I like even just some of the special effects they do in the film as well is pretty impressive. They pulled off.
Really impressive. You're like
when Nick's running through the house and like people are appearing everywhere and whatever else, like crawling out of the bag and.
I think one
even like just
of my favorites is at the dance. They like are filming the dance of all the monsters and everything, and then they pan across to a mirror, and it's just Stu dancing by himself. Pretty much for everybody else is invisible, which I guess doesn't quite make sense because I think it's only vampires that are invisible to mirrors, but whatever. Still funny. But yeah, other stuff like that, the flying around, some of it's not great, but most of it looks pretty solid.
I think some of the stuff I'm like, this is purposefully crappy. Like the flying around wire work is purposely like the part where the police come in and they're all kind of frozen in midair, and you could see they're trying to maintain their balance at the same time and not lose their shit. It's just, I think that like kind of lends itself. I think there's a mixture of purposely crappy special effects, like when Jermaine is turned into a cat, but his face is superimposed onto the cat's body because he's crappy at doing faces. I think like that's purposely crappy, but then there was other moments where I was like, man, these special effects actually aren't terrible. Like, what the hell? Like, did somebody at Weta like sneak? Like, you have a friend in Weta that's like, hey, I got you. I got you, bro.
Do some special effects and that kind of thing. Yeah, very amusing. Even the stuff with Stu teaching them about the internet and the technology. And so selfies.
Good. So good.
I mean, it'd be even weirder to see it now with like mobile phones, even newer than they were back then. And yeah, I Peter, great. Any scene he was in, but the scene where he dies is hilarious.
I was too late.
He died in a terrible sunlight accident. And then I do love the police come in and terribly hypnotized and just giving them a safety advice.
Hey, what's that up there? No fire alarms. Unbelievable. Not a single fucking fire alarm in sight.
Chemicals. Just chemicals open. Flammable.
Yeah. That's not very good, is it? Yeah, no, get that fixed, mate. Come on.
What's happening here? Your mate's unconscious. He's got a concrete slab on him. That's not comfortable.
That's uncomfortable. I want to fix that. Get him a blanket or something. Come on.
Yeah, get him a pillow and a blanket. Don't leave him down here.
Oh, so good. But yeah.
Or even just the thingamy's I can't remember what the word is for them now. The servant, the minion lady.
Yep.
She's just overall like just how upset they get when she gets turned and just like, what have you done?
Should have told me.
You should have told me. I would have done.
Yeah. Great film. Yeah. I'm very happy Taika obviously blew up after this. For his sake. Not necessarily for Dylan's sake, I guess.
It's not like I hate his. It's not like I hate his other movies. I just like. I always hope that for every like sort of big AAA Hollywood movie he does, he can still like every second one kind of fit in another his sort of thing. Like even if he hunt for the Wilder People
Thor,
or whatever,
and then he did Jojo Rabbit, which was.
I was gonna say he did Jojo Rabbit, which apparently was very, clearly was a very hard sell to people because
it was in development for years.
Yeah, and he had to sell it that like part of the only reason that it got even accepted was because he had accepted that he would play the role of Hitler because he wouldn't make anybody else do that.
Mm. He's got his next goal wins film, which doesn't sound like it's a big commercial hit. But then of course they got the Thor sequel and Star Wars film and Akira. And maybe werewolves eventually. Or werewolves.
Werewolves.
Werewolves. Not swearwolves.
Not swearwolves. Sorry. Fuck, I love Rhys Darby.
He's so good.
He's so good.
Makes me. Have you seen Hunt for
the
Wilder
tracksuit
People,
pants?
By the way, have you seen Hunt for the Wilder People, Kieran?
No, I have not.
Oh my god, he's so good in that as well. The whole movie's great, but he's so good in that as well.
Which is the movie that he has like a Harry Potter like fan club or something where he's, I can't remember. There's something where he's like somebody's like next door neighbor and he's having a Harry Potter like trivia night. I can't remember now.
Have you watched Flight of the Conchords, the TV series?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, because
Yeah, of
where's
course.
the
Yes,
because he's the manager
Yes
in
Man,
that.
I'm assuming.
Hey,
Yes Man, would I be the film that Dylan, Kieran's talking about?
Yeah, I think so. It was,
Well, that's the
yeah,
one
he's
that-
Norm. Sorry, yeah, Norm in Yes Man.
But yeah, Fly the Conchords, amazing series. That lasted just long enough. First
Not
season
long
stronger.
2 seasons.
First season's a lot stronger.
That's because
And
they
I
use all
really-
their songs they've been doing on the road for like years and years.
Yeah, exactly.
But there's some good ones in the second season. All right, I think we could go on, but we'll end it here.
Easily.
Uh,
Also, I picked something that Dylan likes. Hooray!
Good job.
good.
You know, I will say, picking a movie is like the most stressful thing because I'm like, they've probably already seen anything that I've suggested.
Doesn't matter.
Dylan's probably gonna despise it.
Doesn't matter.
I'm like, I don't like. Come on, like at least I got a small win this week. Excellent. I almost went to like a gimme, but I didn't. I went with this.
Just
That's
pick
not-
whatever. Doesn't matter. I pick whatever.
Yeah,
fine.
just,
I've
yeah,
picked the worst movie on the show, apparently. So,
It's true.
yeah. According to Ash and Nick, so it's fine.
All right, that's the end of this episode of What Do You Want to Watch. If you want to follow us on Twitter, you can go to explosionnetwork.com/Twitter. All our links are there. If you want to send us an email, send us it at mail@explosionnetwork.com. If you want to help us out, leave us a review either on Apple Podcasts or on Podchaser or on Twitter. Or just tell your friends about the show. Mate. Bro.
Cobba.
In Kiwi words. All right. Until next time, keep watching stuff, I guess.